In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight, we welcome a scholar whose life embodies purpose, perseverance, and power. From East Harlem to Penn State, Sean Hembrick has walked a path carved by vision and guided by legacy. His story reminds us that education is not just a degree, it's a declaration. It's the belief that knowledge can heal, that research can reveal, and that representation can transform. In a world still learning to listen, Sean's voice rises as both scholar and storyteller, bridging the gap between academia and advocacy, between theory and lived experience. Let's step into his journey, his mission, and his message, because tonight we're not just talking about higher education, we're talking about higher purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce and let's bring to the stage Mr. Sean Hembrick. Hello, sir.
How you doing this evening?
I am doing just excellent. How are you?
I'm great. I can't complain. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, before we get into the show, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience?
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. So, like everybody that's joining, everybody that's watching, I greatly appreciate you for taking some time to spend with me on this Tuesday evening. I'm looking forward to an informal, and intellectual conversation with you, Charles. And I greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's hop into it. And I'd like for people to get the opportunity to know a little bit more about you as we go throughout the show here. So, can you tell us, growing up in East Harlem, what early experiences shaped your sense of identity and purpose?
Well, for the people who don't know, like I said, yes, I'm glad that you mentioned East Harlem. That's where I was born and raised. So I'm East Harlem, New York. Go Knicks. I said the Knicks are in the NBA Finals playing the Spurs. So I know the city is really jumping right now and everybody's really excited. But for me personally, I grew up with a single mother. Who raised me and my younger sister in East Harlem, New York, right? Growing up in New York, very diverse, the melting pot, the fashion capital of the world, as a lot of people kind of say, really kind of helped me grow and develop into who I am today, right? I owe everything to New York City. I owe everything to growing up in East Harlem that made me the scholar I am today, a current doctoral candidate in higher education at the Pennsylvania State University, right? So for me, Harlem is everything, right? If anybody's been to Harlem, if you haven't been to Harlem, man, it's like it's a culture, it's a vibe, right? It's a movement. Everything that I am, I owe to Harlem, right? Who I am as a scholar, who I am as an individual, who I am as a person, how I dress, how I talk, how I move. It's all based on me being from Harlem, right? Harlem has a very rich history. We talk about the Harlem Renaissance, right? We talk about prominent writers such as like Zora Neale Hurston, right? James Baldwin, right? Prominent musicians such as the Duke Ellingtons that came from Harlem, right? And we talk about the enriching powers of the Black community within Harlem, right? That's what it's about for me. Like me growing up in East Harlem has really truly been about who I am, with not only within my siblings as a Black man, but as a Black person in America, right? I'm glad that I was able to actually come on this show and kind of speak to you, because we're talking about America in Black and white, right? And there's nothing more Black than Harlem, USA, right? So like big Harlem for me, right? So we talk about who I am and my personal identity. Like I cannot speak to who Sean Hembrick is without speaking to Harlem, USA, right? I mean, I lived on 119th and Lexington. There was a very popular song by a young lady called Chicken Noodle Soup that kind of spoke to, growing up on 119th and Lexington. But that was my life. I met my friends there. I had relationships there. My grandmother raised me. And I met a lot of people there. Like, I grew up there. I went to Catholic school right around the corner there. I went to another Catholic school right at the block in Harlem, right? I played in basketball tournaments there, man. I got in altercations and met people and had fun there. So that is a central part of who I am and why I am today. And like, I can't really speak to anything without really speaking to who I am and what Harlem has honestly done for me. It's like it's a culturally rich, it's a culturally enriched place that really provides opportunities for young black men and like black people to kind of really thrive if they honestly put their minds with.
So, how did your family influence your educational path?
Yeah, so I'm a first generation student, right? So I'm the first one in my family to obtain a bachelor's degree. I hold 2 master's degrees, and I'm currently finishing up my doctorate, which I will be hopefully done in December. But family is a big thing for me, right? I didn't have a really big family as like some other people, but I really had a lot of matriarchs within my family. So I grew up with predominantly a lot of women. So my mother, my grandmother, on both sides, my maternal mother and my fraternal mother, and my grandparents really have really instilled the importance of education for me, right? My mother always told me that education is the one thing that can never take away from you. So education was always at the forefront of anything that we did. I grew up in a Baptist church, so church was really influential in my life. Like my mother made us go to church every Sunday, and honestly, it's like it really truly was about being better individuals. Like, I grew up, I was pretty privileged. Like, my grandmother put me and my sister in Catholic school and made sure that we got a really good education. So that kind of really aided in some formative development in terms of like how I really saw education and how I kind of really navigate education. So I really owe a lot to like my family, especially my grandma Taylor, as well as my grandfather Melvin Hembrick, my father's father, who I called Poppy. Those are really like the most influential people within my life to kind of aid and really helping me to continuously move forward and grow to who I am today. Unfortunately, both of them passed in the early at the early 2000s. But I owe a lot to them. But I also owe a lot to my mother, my mother, Patricia Taylor, who has really done a lot for me. Me and my mom, we have had our ups and downs, but like, she always made sure that amidst all the challenges and trials and tribulations that she has been through, that me and my sister got an education, right? Like just this past weekend, my sister graduated from Lehman College with her bachelor's degree, right? And that was really huge. So like, we are like the only two in the family that went to college and have attained a college degree. So that's something I know my mother is very, very proud of. But family is big for me. Like I have family in Brooklyn, I have family in North Carolina, I have family all over the place. But I also have to speak in the overall aspect of family, my chosen family too. So like the people that are not directly related to me in blood, but the people that have definitely done a lot for me. So I speak to like my friends here at Penn State. I speak to my close friend, Dr. Ivy Cologne, like who's been influential with me through college. I speak to some of my other people. I'm in a travel group called No Madness. Like, I got some dope chosen family through the No Madness travel tribe. So, family is an extenuation of who I am and who I continue to be.
So, what inspired you to pursue multiple advanced degrees across different disciplines?
So, as I mentioned, education for me has been like at the forefront of everything I do. Like, growing up as a first generation student, it wasn't really something I saw a lot of, right? So having an opportunity to go to Catholic school really kind of opened the door for that. Really kind of pushed me into want to learn more about college. My mother put me in a college prep program. I was a TRIO student. So if anybody's not familiar with what TRIO programs are, they're like programs for like underprivileged youth in New York and like around the globe. Well, not around the globe, around the United States, to kind of aid and kind of helping to prepare these students for college. So I was a talent search student through the Columbia University Double Discovery Center, where I was able to actively learn a lot about what college is and get mentoring and go on college tours and things of that matter. So being introduced to college and connecting and engaging with individuals and other students about college and learning more about college, both attending and going to various different Greek step shows, as well as connecting with individuals that were in college, really kind of opened the door for me to wanting to actively go to college and actually pursue higher education. So I went to Binghamton University where I got my BA in English and sociology. And I decided to go to a state school primarily because it was cheaper being an in-state student, right? At Binghamton, that really kind of opened me up to like growing and being a better individual, right? I learned a lot about myself and how I grew as a Black man, how I grew as a college student, and how I actively navigated life, right? Being a first generation student, you don't know what you don't know. So, trying to navigate college at many times was very, very hard for me. I wasn't the greatest college student, but I did graduate, right? But that kind of opened the door to kind of wanting to learn more about like what could I do once I got my bachelor's degree, right? So funny story, when I applied to graduate school, I didn't know that at the time that I could have stayed in Binghamton an extra year and got my master's degree. However, I did apply to grad school, and initially off the back end, I didn't get into any graduate schools. So I tried to figure out like what it is that I want to do after graduation. And then I was fortunate enough to find a program at American University, called the Graduate Gateway Program, which allowed me to intern and connect with the American Bar Association program, the Council on Legal Education Opportunity, because at the time I was interested in going to law school, right? So through that program and being in DC, that kind of really opened me up to wanting to learn more about advanced degrees, right? So I really didn't have a great GPA in college. So, being an American and like, having a close friend of mine that also lived in DC and having one of my close friends in college who was a law student at Howard in DC really allowed me the opportunity to kind of tap into more areas pertaining to law, but to also explore like the DC area. So I really didn't feel I had the grades to go to law school at the time, so I decided to get a master's of fine arts in creative writing, right? So I came back home with the Queens College, and I acquired my master's of fine arts in creative writing in 2012, right? Still want to go to law school, so I did apply to law school. I did go to law school. I did a program at the University of Mississippi, taking like some first year law classes, but really kind of felt that it wasn't really what I wanted at the time. So I decided to take a little time off, go back home, do some nonprofit work, and then decided that I'm gonna go into higher education. So that's what led me to Texas State to acquire my master's of education in the higher ed student affairs in 2018. Right. So in Texas, I was there 2016 when Trump got elected the first time. So you could imagine what it was like to be a Black man in Texas at that time. But Texas State really allowed me the opportunity to, one, be away from New York, kind of tap into a different environment, and kind of learn more about who I am and how I'm able to actively navigate outside of my comfort zone, right? So being in Texas and doing that program, I got challenged. Like, there were times where I didn't really agree with my cohort. There were times where I really didn't agree with my program directors. But what I was able to do is find my community there, right? So at the time, we had a diversity office, which no longer exists now. But I was able to connect with like our vice president of student affairs, Dr. Joanne Smith. So shout outs to her, who really kind of took me under her wing and really kind of introduced me into advanced degrees, right? Like, she was one of the first Black women that was a doctor. Her and Dr. Sherry Ben, who was the director of the diversity office at the time, to really kind of take me under their wing and really kind of push me forward into, wanting to get an advanced degree, right? So I finished at Texas State. I worked as assistant director at Lafayette College Small Liberal Arts Institution in Eastern PA. That ain't work out in the way it did. So I took some time off. COVID happened, which led me to working at Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama. I was a coordinator for their diversity office. Transitioned from that position to working as a coordinator at Michigan State University, and then decided that, around like 421, to start my doctoral program here at Penn State, which I will be finishing up in December. So that's what led me to wanting to do these advanced degrees, just different opportunities and having a different array of environments to actually learn and thrive in. So
how did creative writing inform your approach to research and scholarship?
Repeat the question, Charles. I'll make sure I answer correctly.
How did creative writing inform your approach to research and scholarship?
Yeah, so I always love to write. Like, it's something I continuously do to this day. I mean, I've been writing ever since I was a young child, and writing was a outlet for me growing up in East Harlem, New York, where a lot of times I didn't really see a lot of things that were positive, right? I seen a lot of gangs, a lot of people, like I had some family members that were involved in a lot of different things. So writing for me was my outlet, right? Writing for me gave me a opportunity to continuously figure out who I was and how I was able to actively grow, right? So me acquiring an MFA was because I always loved writing, right? I didn't really think that it would do me much justice, right? It was just something like, okay, I need to do something. So me going into again an MFA was just something for me to do at the time. However, what I was able to actively learn within that program really kind of pushed me to wanting to do this doctorate degree, right? So during my time at Queens College, I was dealing with a lot, like both mentally, emotionally, kind of just kind of navigating, right? So, but I did finish that program in a year and a half, right? And I finished with like the highest GPA in my program at the time. So that's great, right? Not to brag, but I did my work. However, I did my work. However, during my time and at Queens College in the city, writing intensively and being in writing classes and learning about the craft of writing really kind of challenged me to kind of think outside of the box about how I want to show up and who I want to be within the world. Right. So for me personally, what I was able to kind of gather and learn through writing was that writing is an amazing tool to have, right? If anybody ever saw the show Hamilton, like there's a whole song called Hurricane where he talks about writing his way out, right? Writing for me was my way out. Writing for me was my way out of the things that I was feeling at the time, right? The way I was kind of navigating things at the time, right? The way I felt about life at the time, right? So writing for me really continuously pushed me forward in terms of kind of growing and being a person again I am today. Right. So when I kind of think about how writing kind of aided and helping me to develop my research, writing helped me to kind of understand who I was as a Black man. Like, and navigating higher education as a Black man, I continuously feel overlooked all the time. Like I am continuously overlooked. I'm continuously not called on for things, or I'm continuously, pushed aside. So writing was my way to kind of remind myself that I am who I am and I'm doing great things, right? And that kind of led me to the research that I'm doing today, which is focusing on Black men, also on higher education doctoral programs, where how they navigate in and through their doctoral programs at historically white institutions, right? Based on my writing, based on my lived experience, and based on my graduate thesis from my MFA program, which was a memoir about my life growing up in Harlem and growing up in Harlem, as well as growing up as a Black man in New York City, I was able to kind of learn the importance of what it's like to be Black man and navigate that while also recognizing the various different privileges I had and hold as a man, but the various different entities that have hindered me from being who I am today. Hegemony, patriarchy, white supremacy, all of those things. And all of that kind of came through writing and reading. So I immersed myself in a multitude of different writers, right? Ta-Nehisi Coates, James Baldwin, W.E.B. Du Bois, just to name a few. But these authors allowed me to kind of tap in and really kind of open up, my critical consciousness into why I'm doing this research today. I know that was long-winded, but really want to give shout outs to those authors that really helped me to grow.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get more into your doctoral and research here in a second. I just want to give people the opportunity to get to know you, Sean Hembrick, as we get more into that.
Okay.
What does home mean to you now as a scholar living away from your roots?
Oh, that's a good one. And when I think about home, man, like that's a loaded word, man, because home is where you are. Home is where you lay roots, right? And for me, New York City is always going to be home, right? A lot has changed for me in terms of how I actively see New York and how I feel about New York. Primarily when my grandfather passed away, as well as when my grandmother passed away, right? New York is not what it used to be for me, but New York will always be who I am and will always be a part of who Sean Hembrick is becoming and how I continue to become, right?
Mhm.
Home has always been about the people, the community, the connections that I've been able to establish, right? So here I am in State College, which is not my home, right? Definitely far removed from my roots, which are grounded in New York City, middle of central Pennsylvania. There's nothing out here. Like I could sit back and I could sit here and tell you like how much I've done scorn this place, right? Probably even to this day, right? Like there's nothing to do in State College, like literally, right? But what I have been able to actively establish here at State College is to find my community, right? You know, I have friends here that I have been able to connect with, you know, individuals that have definitely looked out for me, right? But there's still not a community here to where I could kind of like call my own. So what I have resorted to doing is like I love sneakers. So like for a lot of people that may follow me or know me, I mean they know I love sneakers, right? They know I love sneakers. So what I have been
Right.
doing is been able to find a community on Instagram through like sneakers, and I've been able to connect and establish some deep friendships and some connections through sneakers through IG. So that's kind of like my home, right? So every
Mhm.
Monday I do a show with a couple of my sneaker friends. I also do an individual show called Real Sneaker Talk where I talk about sneakers with a multitude of different people from different entities in life that also like sneakers, and that's kind of how I find home. I can't even tell you how many sneakers I do have, right? But to me, when I buy sneakers, it feels like home to me, right? I could remember
Mhm.
where I was at when I had the said sneakers. I can remember what basketball players, or specifically Michael Jordan, who like I'm a fan of, did in particular sneakers. So home is not just a place, right? It's where I'm at, right? I'm gonna make home wherever I'm at. So like my apartment is my home. Like I don't really like this is my sanctuary. It's peaceful, it's quiet. I don't really like a lot of people in here. I have like all my little things. I collect Funko Pops, I have sneakers, I have books, I have video games, and I have a lot of different things that make me feel comfortable, right? So we talk about home while I am grounded in New York, and my roots are in New York. Home is where I'm at. So my roots are currently here in Penn State in this apartment, right? And so what is going on in my apartment is what keeps me grounded here, right? Outside and State College is whatever, but home is my apartment, and home is the people that I have allowed into my life.
So, how do you balance intellect and emotion in your work?
Hmm. So the work. So let me just set the stage for you, Charles. For a lot of people that know that I've been in school for a long time, or they call me a lifelong student. It's not that I'm a lifelong student. I just like to learn because it's not really much going on in the world, right? It's too much actually going on in the world from a negative viewpoint. So to set the stage, the reason why I like school, the reason why I like to learn is because you can never not be educated. Like you always want to be able to learn something, right? Like we live in a very technological world nowadays, and our children and different things are so glued to the TV that they forget there are actual books out there, right? So I personally have taken the time to actually you know, tap into a multitude of different things, not only in the technological spaces, but also in the community spaces, while also in the academic spaces, right? So, like being involved in professional organizations, as well as actively connecting and engaging with various different community entities, as well as working with students on campus, has allowed me to continuously do this work, right? So for me, the research that I'm doing really, as I mentioned, it kind of centralizes the experiences of Black men in higher education and doctoral programs with respect to how they navigate in and through, right? I'm utilizing the theoretical utilizing the theoretical undertones of Sankofa, right? If you're not familiar with what Sankofa is, it's an African tribe principle that means it's not taboo to go back and retrieve what was lost, right? So the basis of my study is really kind of speaking to how we as Black men have lost our way throughout these doctoral programs, right? There have been so many times to where we have literally lost ourselves in these doctoral programs, right? Whether it be interactions with advisors, whether it be interactions with like people, friendships along the way. I done lost people as a doctoral student. I done lost some friendships. I done lost some relationships. I done lost a lot as a Black man in this doctoral program, right? Even to this current moment, like even today, you know, but the study is more so rooted by how can we utilize what it is that we have actively lost to kind of continuously push us forward towards our degree attainment. And that is exactly what it is that I have honestly been focusing on. So when you ask that question, it's really about how do I kind of speak of my personal intellect and the work that is I'm doing utilize the Sankofa as a basis for this work, right? So everything comes back to like who you were and who are you actively becoming towards your degree attainment, right? And that's pretty much been my life story. Who I am, who I continually am growing, and who I want to be, and who I will honestly become. Because, like I had mentioned to you, I've been overlooked so many times. Like I have kind of really found ways to actively develop a means to continuously push forward. That means I put my best foot forward, and everything that I do, I have presented at national conferences. Many of times, I just got a book chapter out with my colleague. You know, I got different articles I've done written and different things I've done in sneakers. So, you know, one of the things is simply always about just trying to put your best foot forward and just being the best version of yourself. And that's something that I have continuously done in this work, and something that I have continuously been doing throughout my time here at Penn State.
So, what personal challenges have most defined your resilience?
So, what personal challenges have most defined my resilience? You know, I want to take a moment because it is Black Men's Mental Health Month, right? It's
Yes,
also
it
LGBTQ month. So shout out to
is.
anybody that identifies with the LGBTQ community. You know, I love y'all
Mhm.
all. But also shout out to the men that are actively dealing with mental health, right? This is something that I have continuously dealt with, right? I mean, people that know me have seen me on an up and down roller coaster, dealing with depression, dealing with like suicidal ideation, dealing with a multitude of different things, right? And I don't shy away from this because it's so important to kind of speak on these things, because as Black men, these are things that we don't typically talk about, right? So I am an advocate for mental health. I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for, like, you know, getting your butt in the gym or whatever you need to do to kind of aid and helping you be the best version of yourself, right?
Mhm.
So as somebody that currently deals with depression, as somebody that has continuously navigated, you know, feeling up and down, you know, one of the things that I have done is to really allow myself to have grace. You know, I give myself grace. I really have to remind myself daily that, like, you know, and like, excuse my French, but like, I'm the shit when it comes to a lot of different things. A lot of people may not recognize that, but I can recognize that. And you know,
Yes.
I'm gonna toot my own horn for a minute, because I think um there's been so many times where people kind of have taken me as a joke when it comes to this stuff, right? People have definitely overlooked me. People kind of have pushed me aside because of my mental health. It's like, oh, you dealing with this. People don't want to do that, but people don't really take the time to actively understand what it's like to actively deal with depression unless they actively are dealing with it themselves, right? People don't really understand what it's like to deal with suicidal ideation unless they themselves are actively doing that, you know. And as somebody that has dealt with both, and as somebody that has continuously worked through these things, you know, I owe it to a lot of the people that have been there for me. So thanks to all the people, they know who they are. But I also owe it to myself to actually still be here and still want to do this work and still want to speak on this, right? So I recognize that there are Black men like myself that are actively struggling and that honestly need the help, right? So I try to do the best I can to ensure that other Black men, young Black men, because I'm in a college environment, understand the points of growing within their salience as Black men, but also understand the points of being productive and good Black men, right? Because I cannot have this conversation without speaking to how Black men, a lot of our Black men, are doing egregious things to our Black women, right? There's been a lot of things, you know, there's been a whole thing, Megan Thee Stallion and different things as such. So, you know, I really take it upon myself to really kind of speak and help young Black men understand the points of what manhood is, right? How do we define it? How do we kind of utilize it to our, like, you know, to our advancement, but also to our help? And how can we utilize the privilege that we have and hold in our manhood, excuse me, to be better men, right? And this is why I'm doing the work that I am, because I recognize that there has been this continued divide between Black people for whatever reason, right? And that stems from a multitude of different things. Some people could blame it on the government, some people blame it on white people, some people blame it on society, some people blame it on economy. But at the end of the day, my mother always told me sometimes you got to look at yourself, right? And one of the things that I have done is have done is the internal work, right? I recognize that a lot of people, I'm not their cup of Kool-Aid, and I don't care, right? Right, and that's perfectly fine. But the people that do love me, the people that do see me, the people that do want me in their life, understand who I am and how I am and what it is that I am doing, right? Like I said,
Right.
first one in our family to get a doctorate degree. Nobody in my family has done that. And that is no shade to anybody in my family. It's simply about who it is I want to become and what it is I want to do. Right. Because I
Exactly.
recognize there is so much more that is out there that I have yet to obtain. Right. I seen
Mhm.
my grandmother child bust her ass 30 something years cleaning office buildings. My grandfather working with the housing association. My grandmother working in the post office, right? My mother's doing cleaning and helping being a home house aide. I seen my matriarchs and patriarchs and my people do the hard work so that I could be good.
Right.
So when we talk about this work, I cannot discredit the work that I have seen in the backs of the people that made sure I was good to get to where I am at. So
Mhm.
me doing what it is I'm doing is a testament to the work that they have shown me um to keep moving and keep striving, right? But I am not a component of the struggle love, right? Some people like struggle, you gotta do all this. Like, no, I bust my ass to get to what it is I need to do, and I'm
You're
gonna get
absolutely
everything
right.
that is coming to me and everything deserved. Like God don't play with me, and that's
Mhm.
just me. And I can sit here and speak that because I used to be a very shy kid, Charles, like very shy. Like people felt like they could honestly walk over me. So for me to sit here and speak to you and to be invited on this podcast is a big thing for me because, like, somebody sees me. Somebody sees me because a lot of people don't see me. A lot of people be
Mhm.
like, oh, Sean, whatever, he this, he that. So one, yes, I deal with mental health, and a lot of people deal with it, but a lot of people shy away from it, especially in the Black community, because it's taboo to talk about these things, right? You just get up, put your bootstraps on, you go deal with it, right? But how many of our Black people are dying because they are not actively taking care of themselves?
That's true. You're absolutely
So
true.
again, people need to actively do that and actively take care of themselves. And this is something that, when I speak about who I am, how I am continuously actively going about doing that.
So before we move on to the next part of your work, let me do a follow up here because you've definitely been able to provide us with everything about Sean Hembrick and why Sean is so successful. What I want to ask you is the people that have overlooked you and the people that have not done their right considerations and due diligence by you.
Mhm.
Have you addressed this to them, and how does this make you feel?
So I like I'll be honest, man. I'll be honest in terms of everything. Like I'm not one to hold grudges. Like that doesn't do anything but like just continuously eat away at who you are. Now
Right.
granted, like I could recognize that I'm not always the most happy of people, right? Like I can recognize that, there's been moments where I have had anger. There have been moments where I kind of been upset, as most people have been, right? When it comes to a lot of different things, right? So, I just forgive. Like, sometimes you gotta just love from a distance, whether it be friends, family, etc. Right. But you also got to recognize those people that are in your life for a reason and those people that are in your life for a season. And like, I have had a lot of people that have been in my life for a reason, and those people are still around. And then I have had people that came in my life for seasons to provide me with lessons that I needed to learn about myself, or maybe I was able to help them learn some things about themselves, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I could tell you about all the lessons I've done actively learned here throughout this 5 years at Penn State as a doctoral student, right? I could tell you about all the people that done shunned me and the the things I've done been overlooked about, and I could also tell you about the people that have ensured that I was gonna be okay and made sure that I was gonna get what it is I need to get, and made sure that I was gonna be okay because they recognize that I'm trying to do something different. Right? It's already hard being a Black man in America, but it's even harder when it's like you're trying to navigate that and people don't give a damn about it. Right?
Right. That is
Right, and
true.
it's even harder where there's this constant divide about like Black man ain't this, Black man ain't that, or Black woman ain't this, Black woman ain't that. When it's like we honestly need each other, right?
Right.
So like
Right.
I try to stay away from that, but sometimes it does get me really frustrated because we as Black people need each other because like the masses they want us to have these, they want us to fight, they want us to deal with this stuff, but they've been doing this for history, Charles. Like this is nothing new, right? It's just a
Exactly.
different way they're going about doing it, and they're using technology, they're using the TikToks, they're using the IGs, right? They are diminishing education. I mean, just this past month, the Department of Education decided that certain degrees are not professional degrees. So my PhD would no longer be considered a professional degree. So I'll be a doctor, but it won't be professional. Make it make sense to me, right? If you're
Oh
really paying
wow.
attention, a lot of those degrees are targeted at Black women. I just want to be very clear, like, because a lot of first of all, black women are like the lead in charge in all education. They have like the most degrees in different things, right? So,
Right.
what better way to kind of like, diminish the educational attainments of black women than to tell them that their degrees are not professional? This is coming out of our Department of Education, right?
Right.
So again, I have to be very cognizant about how I am and what it is I'm actively doing within education. And this is why I continue to stay within higher education, because it is needed. And students are not going to stop going to college. Like, college is not just going to just disappear. Like,
Right.
enrollment numbers have been down, but students are still coming to college. So for
Yes,
the
they are.
students that are still going to college and still want to be in college, whether it be a historically white college or HBCU or a minority serving institution or whatever, they still need people that look like me to be there for them, right?
Mhm.
So to those people that have overlooked me, okay, thank you. Right? For the people that continuously show me love and continuously want to see me win, I greatly appreciate you. Right? Because at the end of the day, there's no stopping this roller coaster. There's no stopping this train. Either you're going to be there with me or you're not. And I recognize that. And like I said, everybody is not going to be on my team. I done had people that I believed were on my team decided that they no longer want to be on my team, and that's fine. They got traded to the next team, and I wish them the most success, right? Like I said, the people that are for me will be for me, and the people that are here for a season, like, thank you for coming, and I wish you best of luck in life. And that's just what it is, because I'll be 40 in July, right? And I feel like as I'm concluding my 30s and going into my 40s, I recognize that a lot of the things that I worried about and a lot of the things that done stressed me out, a lot of the things that done bothered me were really stupid. You get what I'm saying? It's like I had no control over these things. So now that as I'm moving towards my 40s, like, what are the things that I actively have control over, that I actively could continuously do to better myself? Right? That's not being cocky, but it's always about professional and personal growth, because at the end of the day, it's just you, right? People gonna come, people gonna go. Like my mother used to tell me, like, people come and go, but at the end, it's like, who are you and how are you actively standing? So I'm choosing to actively stand 10 toes down and continuously do what it is I'm doing. Whether people like me, follow me, want to be my friend, not be my friend, don't want to speak to me. Like, I have no control over what people do and how people react based on their actions. All I do is have control over who Sean is and what Sean does.
Well, I'll tell you this, Sean. We love you, and we definitely recognize you. That's
Oh,
why
yeah, I
you're here.
appreciate that. Thank
You're
you.
here because the work that you're doing is definitely important, and that's where I like to move over into your doctoral work and your
Okay.
research,
Okay.
because this is really the main focal point of this research that I think people more than need to hear, but they need to learn and also understand from you, the architect, as to how this is being navigated and what's the purpose.
Okay.
So, can you tell us what led you to focus on the experiences of Black men in your doctoral programs?
Okay, now we get into it. So now I said now we get into the meat, because I said, I just started my data this week. So, I'm really having an opportunity to interview like a great group of Black men that are currently also in higher education doctoral programs, right? And the reason I decided to do this is because when I came into my doctoral program, there was a lot of information about you're gonna be socialized, like you're gonna be this into the academy, you're gonna do this in the academy. So for me as a first generation doctoral student, I don't know what I don't know, right? So if you're sitting there telling me like, oh, you're going to be socialized, I'm like, what is socialization, right? So what I was able to actively learn and gather about what socialization is, it's like it's a set of like different types of acts and policies and all different types of things that kind of indoctrinate you into this elite club that is academia, right?
Oh,
Like whatever
okay.
it is, right? As somebody that worked in higher education for a good while before deciding to do my doctoral degree, like I could tell you that higher ed is not what it's all caked up to be, right? There are people in higher education that do need therapy. I'm just going to be very honest, and there are a lot of people that are in leadership positions that shouldn't be in leadership positions, that are really kind of hindering our students instead of actively helping them to advance, right? I can't speak to those people, but as I'm going based off what it is I have seen within the field of higher education, right? Reason as to why I decided to do my doctoral research on Black men is because I needed to really feel like I myself wasn't going crazy, right? I came into the program as the only Black man in my cohort, for a woman, right? When I started the program, there were two Black men that were in the program. One of them decided to transition back home to work at another institution. And the other black man that I most recently spoke to decided that they would no longer be a student at Penn State and decided to transfer to another school. So I'm literally the last of the Mohicans in my program. It's just me, right? Now, I'm not going to talk bad about my program, but what I will say is that the program has been challenging. It has been challenging, right? Especially for me as a black man actively navigating that. One, I told you I'm in Central Pennsylvania. It ain't shit here. I'm just going to be honest. It's nothing here, right? Navigating being the only black man in my program while trying to find my community here has been extremely detrimental, not only to my mental health, but my spiritual and emotional well-being, right? There have been many nights where I have said, hell with this. Why get a PhD? What's the point, right? And then watching the news and seeing all the things that they're doing with education doesn't make it any better. It's like, so I'm going to graduate and then I'm going to still be struggling, right? So, me being a black man and doing this research really stemmed from my own lived experience, my own salient experience of navigating this on a day-to-day basis, right? The research that I'm doing speaks to black men specifically in higher education doctoral programs. One, because higher education is so uniquely situated in our world. When you think of things that they take from, they always take from education first. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's like, let's get rid of education, right? Because what they have recognized is that if we are educated, then we could do things. So what better way to dumb people down? Remove education, right? Our ancestors, all those that fought for the civil rights movement, all of those that did the work, they were educated folk. Not all of them, but most of them were educated folk. They went to school, they did what they had to do. You see, they tried to close the doors of us, right? The reason I'm speaking to black men in higher ed at historically white institutions, because at one time we were not in these institutions.
Exactly.
Right? That is not to discredit what HBCUs have done. That is not to discredit what other institutions have done, right? But why are we as black men that are currently in these historically white institutions, how are we actively navigating and getting through? Because we get our degrees, right? But like I said, utilizing Sankofa, we lost a lot of things too, right? Like I said, man, before I started this program, like I said, my grandparents have been going for maybe like 3-4 years, right? I was dealing with some things with family-wise. I was in Alabama. Like, I would have never thought about applying for a PhD, right? The fact to almost be done with this now, like, and sit back and look at it, it's like amazing to me. And we go back to me writing, like I've been writing almost every day throughout this journey, speaking to what it has been like being a black man within this program. Right. I kind of took some time off. I haven't wrote in a while, but I have tracked what this journey has been like, which kind of led me to wanting to do the work that I'm doing within my dissertation. Right. And the dissertation is rooted in amplifying the voices of black men, because our voices are not amplified. They're not, especially in the academy, especially in higher education. Right. I have rarely read information in higher education that talks about what black men in higher education are doing outside of they competing with each other. Right? It's been a little niche community of scholars that have really been speaking to understanding what black men experiences are like from the undergraduate level. But at the graduate level, at the doctoral level, it's very, very small. So my research is amplifying those stories, the stories of these men in these higher education doctoral programs in these all white institutions, and how they actively navigate and how we actively getting through, how we actively find a community, whether it be through Greek life, whether it be through community organizations, whether it be through family, to kind of continually push us forward, right? Because this work is so needed, because it's not being talked about. And I felt I need to actively do that, because being in my program, I, as the only one, it was like, nah, I can't be experiencing this by myself. So that's why I'm doing this research, and so far so good, and I'm excited about it as I kind of get more into the nitty-gritty of it.
Well, now, as I was just listening to those great things that you're doing and what the purpose of your program, your dissertation, can you explain to the audience, as you think about, you're doing this on black men and PWIs, and in doing this on black men and PWIs, can you just tell the audience what is it exactly you're looking for in this research that you are finding that people need to know?
Well, like as I mentioned, I'm still kind of in the data, but like haven't done a pilot study and have like spoken with like various different colleagues that are currently doctoral students at PWIs, HWIs, whatever you want to call them, non-Black serving institutions, whatever you want to call them. What I have been able to actively gather from the data and this in conversations is that like we are struggling. I mean, not just Black men, Black women too, right? But Black
Mhm.
women, they are very resilient, right? I
Mhm.
feel like we as Black men, we are continuously pushing forward in our resilience, right? But like, sometimes we feel like, we have to do everything by ourselves to where it's like it could be detrimental to our continued success, right? This is
Yes.
why I
Yes.
advocate for therapy because it's like,
Mhm.
sometimes it does feel like we got to do it by ourselves, and a lot of times we are doing it by ourselves as men, right? And this is
Mhm.
why I say, like, to all my brothers, especially my Black men, like we got to be better in terms of taking care of us, right? And I
Mhm.
can say that I need to be better at taking care of myself. I haven't always been the greatest at doing that as well, right?
Mhm.
But what I have been able to actively gather and from like conversations and as I'm kind of working through this data is that a lot of these institutions talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So like they get you there, you'll get in, like you'll get in a program, but when you're there, then you're set up for failure, right? You're
Mhm.
set up for failure. So like you get here and then you graduate in like 6, 7, 8 years, primarily because there's no community, primarily because like the institution hasn't done the job to ensure that you will actually be successful, right? Not only are there a lack of Black faculty members within these various institutions, right? There are Black faculty members that are not your people, like all skin, like like all skin folk and kinfolk. Unfortunately, it's just what it is,
Exactly.
and that is
Mhm.
within colleagues, that is with professors, that is within your cohort. I have seen it and I have dealt with it, right? So like sometimes it be your own people, and this is just the reality, right? But the reason as to why you know I'm doing my work is primarily because of the conversations I have also had. The fact that it's like, man, like I'm struggling, my advisors done left, or like I don't really have nobody there. I'm the only one, or like how do I even go about doing a dissertation? I don't really have a topic. Like I really have nobody to speak to, right? So people come to these conferences and different things trying to find those communities. And then sometimes at the conferences, you can't even find communities. Sometimes at the conferences, you feel more alone than you do in your program. So our professional
Wow.
organizations honestly need to be better in ensuring that people that are coming in are actively able to find their community as well. And like, don't get me started. I could tell you about some of the places that have been at these professional conferences where Black people feel left out. It's sad. It
Yeah.
is extremely sad. However, as I continuously work through the data, what I'm actively learning is that like we need each other. So not
Mhm.
only am I developing this dissertation study, I'm also really trying to establish a community of Black men in current higher education programs to actively connect with each other. That is what it's
Wow.
about at the end of the day. It's not just about me doing the research and kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm Dr. Hembrick. It's more so about, okay, we are currently all in the same position. We are different institutions. We're navigating this differently, but we all hold the same salience as Black men in doctoral programs. We're all going to be doctors. I don't doubt that.
Mhm.
However, outside of that, how do we sustain a community with each other, right?
Mhm.
So this is why I give big shout outs to like a Black brother I met named Nathaniel Nathaniel Smith. Like he started a program called Dissertating While Black, right? So Dissertating While Black is a program that is dedicated to ensuring that Black men in doctoral study are actively connected. I have had the opportunity to sit as like a facilitator for the Dissertating While one of the Dissertating While Black Zoom webinars, and like I can say like this Black brother here is really doing God's work and ensuring that Black men in doctoral study are having a place to actually talk about the things that they are not, right? So my work is amplifying our voices, but the work that he is doing is amplifying the community. So connecting with him and establishing with him and through the dissertation while Black community has allowed me to also meet other Black men that are also doing his work. Right. So this is bigger than just a dissertation, right? This is about ensuring that Black men are having community because we are so siloed
Mhm.
at our institutions. We go to
Right.
work, go home. Unlike women who have like sister circles or finals community, Black men struggle with that. That is
Mhm.
something I have seen, and that's why I'm doing this data, right? If you're not in a Greek organization or whatever, like you really have nobody, right?
Mhm.
Like black women, they gonna find black women, they got their friends and everything. But black men, we kind of do things so siloed because we're told that we have to work, we have to do this, we have to provide, we have to do all of these things except be human.
Mhm. Now,
So
this is what I wanted to go to. I want to ask you this because what actually just jumped out to me, and I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you can help us to understand this. Like when you guys are all on that campus, you mean to tell me that it's hard to find your tribe?
yeah, yeah, it's yeah, it
Wow.
is. Like it is extremely hard to find your tribe. And it's always funny, like especially like when you're doing podcasts and different things and stuff, because it's like, there's always gonna be people that are just ignorant in their commentation, right? There's
Right.
always gonna be people that are ignorant and like not doing the research. Like I tell people all the time, Google is free, right? So it is hard to find your tribe, especially in a pool of whiteness, right? And also in a pool of minimal black graduate students, right? Now, granted, there is a black graduate student organization which I have been a part of, right? But then again, it's like, while I know grad students, those are not my people. You get what I'm saying? Like I
Yes.
have connected with people in it, but like that is not my niche, and that is fine, right? But again, while I'm not saying it's the job of the institution to establish things, the institution can be better in ensuring that there are opportunities for students to find community, right?
Mhm.
Currently
Right.
at Penn State, our graduate students are trying to unionize because they're not being paid enough. Since I've been
Wow.
here in 2021, that has been a huge thing, right?
Mhm. Right.
There's that. So our graduate student population ain't but so big at Penn State. Like Penn State is about 40,000, 50,000 students, and like the grad population is probably like 3,000 students, something like that. It's not huge, right?
Wow.
But
That is smart.
within the graduate community, it's so siloed. I mean, you got a diversity organization specifically only in the College of Liberal Arts. Why is it not for all grad students? It's just in liberal arts. You got one program over here, you got another program over there. So everybody's kind of doing their own little thing, which is fine because, like, everybody has to find their own community. But what would it look like to actually have a community where black students collectively across the campus community can actively connect and engage with each other, right? The College of
Mhm.
Education at Penn State is currently going through a strategic plan right now. One of the suggestions I made was that maybe we need to have a graduate center where graduate students, color whoever, can actively utilize, and there be programmatic efforts to kind of aid in ensuring that community is at the forefront of what we is doing. Like the College of Education, at least at Penn State, talks about creating future leaders, but you can't create future leaders if they don't have no community. Like you
Right.
can't create future leaders if they feeling like the institution is not even helping them to become leaders, right?
Right.
So again, there needs to be better. There needs to be more understanding of what it's like to actually be a grad student. Like I do not like grad school. I'm just gonna be very honest with you. I don't like it. I don't like it, and it's not because I don't like learning. I don't like the structure. Right? It
Right.
does not. Graduate school is not set up for you to be successful. It is set up for you to kind of think a certain type of way to fit into a certain type of dynamic. Honestly,
Mm.
that's exactly what it is, right? You come, you learn how to get socialized into being in this elite class of people that also have doctorate degrees, to speak with other people that got doctorate degrees, forgetting that there was a whole community that you did your study on that you would never speak to again. So a lot of people
Mm.
did their dissertations on communities that actually need help, but yet they don't ever go back to those communities.
Ooh, I tell you, that right
So,
there, that's the juice. That's the
so
juice.
again, a lot of people just doing it for the credentials. Like
Yeah,
the work that I'm doing is not just for black men and doctor programs, but it's also for black men that want to be doctors, right? So it's like,
exactly.
hey, here's my dissertation. Here's what black men that are currently doing, that are currently about to be doctors. Here's what they went through. Here's some information to kind of aid and kind of help you so you won't fall into the same pitfalls that we did.
So let me help you set this up because what you just spoke of, it goes well to this question, but I want you to be more detailed in this answer. How does systemic barriers manifest in graduate education?
Charles, you about to listen. And like whoever gonna watch this, man, like I'm just gonna be very transparent. Um, how do systemic how do systemic barriers like
How
so
they
repeat the question.
manifest.
How do they manifest? Okay, that's what I want to hear. So how do
Mhm.
systemic barriers manifest in graduate education? Well, let's just be realistic. Systemic barriers manifest in graduate education primarily from the first time they let you in, especially at a historically ranked institution, right? They said, like, unless you have a good program and a good advisor, somebody that's going to walk you through it, that also understands what it's like to be academically hazed through it, like you're pretty much out there by your damn self. Like you're pretty much out there to fend for yourself, right? I mean, I can sit here and tell you about coming into my program as a first generation Black doctoral student, working with a faculty member who also identified as Black, who decided that they didn't want to work with me no more because of something I did, but then it wasn't a good advisor enough to sit there and actively tell me what I did wrong. So I don't know what I don't know. And like, if I'm coming in, so you just setting me up to fail, right? So not
Exactly.
only, not so, and here's what happens, right? A lot of time these faculty members, they're up for tenure, they're trying to get tenure, so the amount of work that they do could be extremely overwhelming, right? So to have a doctoral student under your wing is kind of like, having a person to sit there and do the work for you. A lot of us as graduate students are like utilized not for our skill set, but as we're more so utilized for what it is that we could do to make other faculty members look better. That's why I said I don't like grad school, right? We are not robots. We are human beings. We are
Wow.
aspiring to do what it is you're doing, right? Like I said, I'm 40 years old. Like faculty members cannot speak to me like they would speak to like somebody fresh out of like their master's program. They just can't, because I have experience. But for those students that are coming in that are fresh out of their master's program, still all bright-eyed and stuff, like I'm gonna be a doctor, right? Not really understanding how this shit works. They get caught up in this academic hazing and they think that's okay. It is not. So we talk about the systemic barriers. They stem from our faculty members in the institutions that have continuously perpetuated what it's like to actually do doctoral work, right? So many times I tell you, like, well, that's just what it is. What the hell you mean that's just what it is? You telling me that you done been hazed so much and people done diminished you so much that you have lost your creativity to the point to where like you can't be a good human no more?
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
I cannot begin to sit back and tell you how many of these people that have doctoral degrees need help, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I get so frustrated. And some of the things I done heard at conferences, some of the stuff I done read, is like, who allowed these people to become doctors? And that's not shade. That's just more so it's like people haven't done the internal work before they got the degrees.
Let me ask you something, because I know that those that are in those institutions, and when they're actually getting this tenure, and they're giving them all this money, and now they're a mainstay and all this other good stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. So
There's
are you telling us that how the system is set up, that these folk are actually there where, let's just say, there are those, it's kind of like picking the apples that they want.
Oh yeah, favoritism is huge. I'm not even gonna lie. Like their favoritism is huge. This is across the board in all graduate programs, man. Like there are certain graduate students that get more favor than others, right? They talk about this thing called the hidden curriculum, right? There's a thing that,
Right.
and it's very, very real, right? The hidden curriculum is all those things that you wish you knew as a graduate student that you would never know, right? Like all those scholarships, all those grants, all those things that you're being overlooked for because other graduate students, sometimes mainly white students, get that you as a Black student or a student of color won't get, right?
Yep.
So I have dealt with that. I have seen that. The reason why Sean Hembrick continues to thrive because Sean Hembrick is always going to put his best foot forward. I apply for awards. I apply for scholarships. I apply for fellowships. So any opportunities I get is because I put myself out there, not because the institution did it for me.
Right. Wow. That
I
is
can sit.
something.
I could sit down and tell you, Charles. There was a instance where I got an award for graduate student of the year at one of my professional organizations. Another young lady in my cohort also got a graduate student of the year award from the same professional organization, just in two different entities. Right. We both got the same award.
Mhm.
My program gave recognition to that student, did not give recognition to me. And we were at the same conference and got the same award.
Right. And so, did they ever explain to you why?
Nope. But what I did was send the email like, hey, I just want to recognize that I was also at the conference. I also got this award. So, like, can somebody please make sure that my name is up there as well? That's exactly what the hell I did. Because what you're not going to do is overlook me for doing the same thing. And we in the same cohort. But that's that hidden curriculum. We're going to recognize one because this one is doing all the things that we want. And we're not going to recognize the other, even though the other end, even though both are in the same situation. I mean, and doing the same work, right? I mean, but this stems from like in my master's program. I mean, in Texas State, like I was one of 2 black men in the program, right? I done been blackballed, cohort mates done tattletailed on me. One cohort mate done told me they was gonna tell the professor because we was working on a group project because it's like they ain't want me to mess up their grade instead of us working together collectively to rectify the situation. It's like I'm gonna let the professor know. Like, really? And the funny thing is, a lot of these people they ain't doing nothing now.
Well,
But
that's because they are nothing.
that's on them. But again, I take that as lessons learned. Again, everybody's not gonna be in your corner. Sometimes the people that try to step over you, they the ones that wind up falling, and that is okay.
So,
And I
can
have
you just
seen it.
so what patterns have you discovered in how black men navigate doctoral spaces?
So what have I discovered how black men navigate doctoral states? First and foremost, it's like we keep it moving. Like the one thing I love about black people, man, like black people, educated black people that actually want to do something is that nothing could stop us, like shit, like what the song say, ain't no stopping us now. We like, like ain't no stopping us now. Like, and we've been doing this for centuries, right?
Right.
They want to stop us and they're doing everything, man. I tell you, Charles, man, like Trump and his administration and all the people, they are doing everything in their power to ensure that black people, people of color, do not get an education, man. I mean, they done got rid of DEI. They done set up degrees are unprofessional, man. This Project 2026 thing is exactly what he said he was going to do. People just don't read.
Right.
People just
Project
don't read.
2025.
Like the Project 25, yeah, like I said, people just don't read. You get what I'm saying? So again, like I'm not surprised by none of this stuff, to be completely honest. All I do is have control of what it is I could do. And like they not gonna stop my show. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I'm gonna get my degree from here. They not gonna stop me, right? It may take me a little longer because research states that black students they take a lot longer than their white counterparts to get the degrees because we don't have community. We don't have the resources. We don't have the same opportunities as our white counterparts when it comes to a lot of these things. Unfortunately, that's not to say that all white people get everything because some white people struggle too, right? That's why I said I'm getting ready to go to the Social Justice Institute next week in Baltimore, and we're gonna be talking about this. And I'm hoping to learn more about how to be better within my selling as a black man and connecting and engaging with our white counterparts. I'm looking forward to that. Right. However, what I have continuously been able to gather is that like nothing's gonna stop our show. I'm gonna get mine, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I would be remiss to sit back and allow all the shit and struggles I done been through stop me from getting my degree. I'm too close. I'm too close. And like I can tell you, like, there's been so many times where it's like people done came into my life that have tried to like interfere with this, or I have tried to invite people in my life that have been nothing more than this, detrimental. They still don't stop the show. The one thing my mother always told me about me, Charles, is that like, yo, you could go through a whole bunch of things, Sean, but you always gonna get yours. And that's what I do. Because I come from a resilient family. I come from people that bust their ass and got through. I come from people that got it out the mud, like we say, right? I come from a long lineage of people that said no. And that's what keeps me moving. So like black men, that's what keeps us moving. The reason why we get up in the morning, whether it be our family, whether it be our dogs, whether it be our cats, whether it be our TTs and our aunties, whatever keeps us going is the reason as to why we keep moving. And this is exactly what it is, what I have seen of black men in doctoral programs. Like they all want to make active change in their community, but also to help other black men continuously move forward in their academic journeys.
So How does representation affect persistence and completion rates?
Man, listen, I mean, that's basically the research, man. There's so much research that talk about like, persistence and like, what is needed to ensure graduation rates. First and foremost, remember, representation is needed, right? I would not be in higher education if it wasn't for the overall aspects of representation, right? There needs to be more like me. There's not a lot of black men. You could go back in your history and kind of think about how many black male teachers you done had in your life. Probably not a lot, right?
Right. You're right.
Right.
You're
Probably
right.
not a lot, right? So to see a black man in a position of, academic rigor or a scholar or doing good work, that is nice. Like people love to see that, right? People love to see black men doing great things, right? But again, people love to see black men doing great things for the right reasons, because there are a lot of black men doing in these positions doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got one person in the Supreme Court that's been a black man in the Supreme Court for a whole bunch of years doing it for all the wrong reasons. I don't got to name him. Y'all know who he is. You get what I'm saying? I don't have to. Right?
Yes. Right.
So again, it's simply about who you are as an individual, who you are as a black person and a black man in America, right? Representation is needed. Students are more inclined to stay in college if they see people that look like them.
Yes.
You're
exactly right.
Like,
You're exactly
unfortunately, I attend a predominantly white institution, right? There are not a lot of black faculty here. There are 2 black faculty members within my department, right? We had a black department head that left the institution, like just found out, like came, was here like 6 months and like going. So again, representation is needed because students need to know there are people they can actually speak to. Now, granted, recognize that all them people that look like you ain't gonna be for you, but there are people that are there that look like you that want to see you be successful. I owe it to certain faculty member here at Penn State that have seen me. I'll just give a shout out to one, Dr. Ashley Patterson. It's like my academic mother. Like anything I needed, anything I like, she will make a way. And I appreciate that because there's been other black faculty that have not done that. There's been black faculty that kind of spoke to me like I was a damn kid. There's been black faculty on campus that made me feel less than. And it's like, wow, y'all supposed to be my colleagues in the future.
Right.
That hurts.
Well, something. I definitely feel you on that because I first want to say that you mentioned something earlier that I have to say, you are a part of an established group that has been here on this show, an enormous amount of doctors, PhDs that are in the education arena that are doing an enormous amount of things. I mean, everybody does a sector of education where it's been broken down that, the impact is just unsurmountable. And I'll agree with you is that when you see black men that are doing this in education and they are making this difference, it's one of those things that, of course, the smile on my face is like larger than this screen, but also, it's like to continue to amplify those voices and to make sure that people know that there are people out there that still get you and are still trying in so many ways to make things happen. But one thing that you did mention that's true as well, that system, them barriers make it hard for those things to creep through or to seep through is because for some strange reason, which we all know why, they refuse to let that happen. But those guys that have been here, I got to tell you, they have done this work. And I'm sure that it's been long and hard, but we have not had this conversation like what we're having with you, because what's happening with you, it seems like there's a preventive measure that's taking place. And that preventive measure, it speaks volumes to the school in which you're at. Because there's been so many things that's transpired at that school that I'm surprised. And I just really want to know, how many more scandals can they take?
I'll be completely honest with you like this. Like, let me first and foremost say, I have nothing against the Pennsylvania State University. Nothing against them. right?
Right.
Nothing against them. But what we have seen across the board at a multitude of institutions within higher education is that a lot of them ain't doing right. I mean, we could talk about what's currently going on at the University of Missouri. The University of Missouri just got rid of their whole black student government, right?
Yeah.
I currently have a
Right.
colleague there, right?
Right.
That is working there that actually graduated from there at the time where like all hell broke loose when their university president decided to resign and they football players took to protesting. So, you know, this is not just a Penn State thing. This is a university thing, right? You know, I mean, there are so many things happening at these institutions that they don't talk about, right? You know, there's been instances of blackface parties, there's been instances of racism. I mean, like, you know, there's been instances of hanging. Like, as much as people like to think we done changed and stuff, like, man, I feel like I'm living in the damn 1920s, to be completely honest with you, Charles. Like, shit, I said shit. Like, is it the civil rights movement or what? Like, it felt more like the 1960s than it felt in 2026, you know, to be completely honest with you. But I say all that because it's like, you know, our struggle continues. But I mean, like, it's just being recorded. It's now being more seen, right? However, higher education institutions will always protect higher education institutions. The reason why a multitude of individuals are leaving the field of higher education is because they are not seen, heard, or validated. They are not appreciated. There has been a mass exodus of people, it's particularly black people within higher educational spaces. Right? Primarily because these institutions don't care about you, right? They'll fire you and hire somebody the next day. But that's just a lot. That's just with anything, right? Like over 300,000 black women done been fired from their jobs because like a lot of people don't recognize that black women are the glue when it comes to a lot of things, and they want to get rid of them because they just tired of seeing black women win at the institutional level and at the professional level, right?
Yes, exactly.
So nobody's really talking about that,
right?
And sometimes it be their own black sisters the one kicking them out.
Yep.
Like what I have been able to actively gather and learn about being a higher education is that there are a lot of clout chasers, right? And this is the same thing. I talk about this a lot in sneakers too, right? People want to be seen, people want to be heard, people want to be in the front of the cloud, right? I cannot tell you how many times I've been at conferences and I heard from some prominent figures that talk all this stuff about community, blackness, different things. Then you meet them and they're some of the most shallow people. But they talk a good talk. But you meet them and they're super shallow. It's like, so you talk all this mess, but you super shallow as an individual, right? What that lets me know is that you only doing it for the clout. You're doing it for the applause. You're doing it for something. People will sit there and believe you, right? Because feeble minds are the devil's playgrounds. And a lot of people will follow what they feel makes them good. I mean, if you haven't been watching this, like I should like, if y'all haven't watched this, has been a whole documentary on like Hulu about the Nature Boy cult, and which was wild to me because I never really thought black people to be in a cult. But all these black people now follow this dude called Nature Boy. He talking about all this black love and stuff, and then he pretty much out there raping a woman and calling a woman all types of obscenities, and got the black man demasculating a manhood. It's a very wild documentary. It's only 4 episodes, but things like that, feeble minds are the devil's playgrounds. And I can tell you, within higher education, there are a lot of followers and not a lot of leaders.
Yes,
I'm choosing to be a leader within the field, right? Because I recognize that the field of academia is very rewarding. There are a lot of rewarding things. There's so much that comes out of academia, right? You can do a lot of great things in academia. There are a lot of people I look up to that have done great work. I'm talking about the Gloria Langston Billings, right? The Lori Pattersons, right? You know, I'm talking about like those prominent people that have done a lot of great work. But then on the other end, there are a lot of people that have also done a lot of great work that are shitty people, unfortunately, you know? Right. And there are people that are, and what is sad, and what is so sad, Charles, is that you see this. It's like I'm in my doctoral program and I'm seeing students become that. It's like, so you're going to be one of those assholes in the field.
That's the cult. That's the cult.
Right. And that's what it is. So it's like I'm choosing. So I'm choosing not to fall a victim to the BS because I'm my own person. And when you are your own person is when you get scorned the most. When you decide when you decide to be different from the group is when people don't like you. That's why I get overlooked for a lot of things. That's why people push me aside because I'm not cliquish. I don't do clicks. I don't do funny haha. I do what feels good for me and what is good for the community and the people that I'm serving. That is what I do. So I'm
Right.
not going to join no organization. I'm not going to join no commission. I'm not going to join no group just to say I'm in a group. And then we get in there and then y'all excluding other people that may also want to be in a group. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
It
It's
is.
ridiculous. So, like, having an opportunity to come in and speak to you, I'm glad I got the opportunity to do so because, like, I am so quiet when it comes to a lot of things because people
Mhm.
just sit there. Like, a lot of people only know me because of school. People don't call me. People don't check up on me. People don't ask me about me. Or people's like, how's school? That's all people care
Mhm.
about. A lot of people. And that's
Mhm.
fine because that's what I put out there. That's what I do. But outside of that, like I said, it's men's mental health month. Like, nobody check up on me. Nobody asked me how I'm doing. Nobody asked me. It's like, yo, like, are you needing? And that's perfectly okay. You know,
Mhm.
like I recognize that. Like the people that I know will be there for me have continuously been there for me, and those are the people I cherish, right? Because people will overlook you every day, but then they will ask you for something, and they do it in
Mhm.
academia too. Many a
Mhm.
times, people will sit there and they ask you to join and write with them to make them look good, and then they'll take all the credit for it.
Yep. Ooh, well,
Like they will
yeah.
take all the credit for it. I mean, literally, like I'm speaking from a experience of working in higher ed, but also being a doctoral student and from what I have seen. That's why I give a big shout out to like my colleague and my dear friend, Dr. Ivy, because anytime something comes up, she'd be like, yo, you want to write on this? Like she includes me. She's a doctor now. She's going for tenure, but she includes me in that because she recognized the importance of building my professional rapport. Right? You get what I'm saying? However, my faculty members, unfortunately, they ain't doing that. Nothing against them. I love them dearly, right? But like nobody else is putting me on. So I got to put myself on.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I got to ensure that I'm growing and developing as a professional and the leader I want to be and not the leader that everybody else feels I should be.
Mhm.
So
You
that's why I
know,
do this work.
as I just think about this, as sad as this is, I appreciate you so much for actually, acknowledging this. But what I want to ask you to do, if you can
Sure.
you please tell our audience and those people that are, thinking about going into doctoral programs in higher education, can
Mhm.
you please give them some advice as to what to expect and how things might look for them?
Yeah, I'll be very honest with the back. Like, don't have no expectations, right? If you coming in thinking that just because you got in a good program that is going to be great, you're probably gonna be highly disappointed, right? Recognize that your experience is your experience and then your experience alone. Recognize that what you do and how you set yourself up will determine who you're gonna be once you graduate from the program, right? Recognize that people that look like you, they may not be there for you, and they may not be the people for you. Recognize that sometimes the people you may want to work with may not want to work with you. Also recognize that as you are growing and development as a doctoral student, to really take time to really figure out what it is that you want to do for you, not what your advisor wants you to do. Your dissertation is your dissertation. It's not your advisor's dissertation. You have every right to speak up. Speak up. One of the things I wish I did earlier was speak up about how I felt. It wasn't until like my second year did I start to speak up, and then I got scorned for those things, and I don't care because as long as I'm doing what the hell it is I need to do, you can't kick me out the program. I got a 3.9 GPA. So again, like be your authentic self in these places and spaces, right? Authenticity is missing so much from higher education. Everybody is trying to fit into this little box. Be outside of the box, yo. Choose the road less traveled, right? Like, I am so tired of people trying to fit this box just so they could look good. Be different. Be different. That's what makes you unique. Being different. When you do everything exactly the same way, it's safe, but sometimes safe is not safe. I choose to be different. And that's why I deal with all the turmoil. I deal with all the ups and downs. I deal with the people coming and going and stuff. I'm used to that. But the one thing that keeps me grounded is that ain't nobody ever going to tell me what it is that I'm not doing. And everything that I'm doing is authentic to who I am as an individual and my feelings as a Black man growing up from East Harlem. That's that Harlem in me. That's that dog in me. I grew up in East Harlem and we some hustlers. So you can't out hustle a hustler. I mean, Jay-Z done did a whole thing at the Roots picnic, man. He done said some things. So listen, I am Sean Michael Hembrick, and I'm me. And that's all I can be. Like I said, you don't like me? Oh well. People, there are people that love me, there are people that care for me, and that is personally okay. But at the end of the day, all I could do and all I can do is continue to be me. What's the saying? Like, all I gotta do is be black and die.
So, look, this is my last question for you.
Sure.
What does navigating graduate education look like in real time?
Hmm. So, that kind of something I, kind of been thinking about within my dissertation work is like, what does navigating graduate education look like in real time? Recognize that higher education is actually under attack, ladies and gentlemen, right? They don't want us to be smart. If they could dumb us down, I truly feel that I don't care. I truly feel if they couldn't act slavery again, they would do it. I truly do believe that. I feel like if they could put us in chains and stuff again, they would truly do that, right? Because what better way to pacify a country than to make them stupid? Let's get rid of DEI because it's indoctrinating people to believe that America's a bad place. It makes white people seem like they are bad. There are some bad white people just as much as there are some bad black people, right? So let's get rid of things that you don't. Let's get rid of things that people don't even know about, but let's weaponize it to make it become a bad thing. People don't recognize that critical race theory started in law school. Like, people don't know that intersectionality was for women. People don't recognize that DEI really benefits white women more than anybody. Affirmative action wasn't really benefiting black people, it's for white people. But however, they weaponize it to where it's like, well, like the black people getting all of this stuff. When a lot of this stuff was to benefit white people. But we don't talk about that. So, like, if you're gonna come into a doctoral program, do your due diligence and do your due research, right? I don't care where you go to school. I don't care if you go to Liberty. I don't care if you go to Capella. I don't care if you go to Penn State. I don't care if you go to Southern New Hampshire University. I don't care where the hell you go. Do your due diligence and make sure that the program that you are actively choosing is the right one for you. And make sure that when you enter that you are actively doing the work you want to do to continuously advance not only yourself, but your community. Don't do work on the communities. Don't do work for the communities, but yet don't go back to communities. If you're going to do work and the damn people that you're doing the work for, they can't read your shit, then what are you doing it for? What are you doing it for? People do all this work. It's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that for the academy. Only people in the academy read the stuff in the academy. I can't give my mother my dissertation. She's not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. So how do you actively ensure that the work that it is that you're doing is for the community and not for the academy?
Right.
It's not just for the academy. It's for everybody. Because there are people that will never be educated. We have a privilege. We are being educated. It is our job to educate the uneducated. People need to read Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Pablo Freire. People got to recognize that it's bigger than us. Stop being so individualistic and worrying about your advancements and your growth, and stop worrying about the people that are coming behind you. We are only as big and as great as the community. That's why the civil rights movement worked, because people worried about everybody else. Everybody worrying about them damn selves. So don't come into a doctoral program worrying about you. Worry about what it is that you want to do for those coming after you. And that is my piece.
So we're gonna go ahead. I want you, if you would please, give us your words of wisdom and encouragement to our audience on how they connect with you via social media.
Sure.
And all of the other good things there before we close the show.
Of course. So first and foremost, let me say thank you, Charles, for taking some time to invite me on your podcast. I really don't take this as I don't take this for granted. Any opportunity I get to actually speak on and like things salient to me is important to me. I really don't talk much because I recognize that some people be like, oh, like, I don't care. But like any opportunity I do get to talk and kind of speak to who I am and about the work that I'm doing, is always enriching. So I greatly appreciate that. Words of wisdom I have, like, just be your true self. Like, be authentic. Like, recognize that, like, yeah, like, we as Black people, we are constantly, continuously struggling. And like, do not aspire to whiteness, right? Like, we will never get to what it is that they're doing. Like, as much as we try, they will never let us get there. So just be your true self, right? Like, you don't gotta fit into this box, right? You don't have to be like everybody else. You could be yourself, and that is okay. You could generally be yourself, and that is okay. you know? And I think so many people have forgotten about who they are that they are now losing themselves, especially in a technological age with AI and TikToks and IGs and all of this stuff, right? And educate the babies. Help the babies recognize that they don't need to be on the screens all day. Give them some books, right? Our kids are becoming more dumbed down. Like this generation is by far, like according to research, probably one of those, like, you know, the less educated generations of all times. Primarily because like they're putting things in their face and these kids are not actively doing the work. The No Child Left Behind Act was the most stupidest act ever. You're passing kids that can't even read at the level that they're supposed to be reading, but you just passing them along. You got kids in college that can't write a damn essay, but they're utilizing AI to do it for them. I had a first year seminar class that I taught where students were utilizing AI in their first couple of weeks of college. So educate the babies, right? We got to continuously grow the educational pipeline to where our babies and our students are actively learning and growing to be the best version of themselves and not being the detriments of our world. And I'll conclude with this, right? Whether you like me or not, please note that Sean Hembrick will continuously always be authentic to himself. I'm going to continue to do this work. I'm going to continue to fight the good fight because I am needed in this field. And and this work is needed in the academy. And like, I thank anybody that watch, even the people I've seen in the comments saying a lot of hateful things. I appreciate y'all too, because y'all ignorant and y'all don't know things. So people just need to read a book. But anybody that watched this, anybody that will watch it, I hope that you understand who Sean Michael Hembrick is and who Sean Michael Hembrick is becoming. And if I'm not your cup of tea, that is perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, please note that I'm going to continue to be me, and that's all I can be. And I appreciate individuals like Child giving me a platform to kind of speak on these things, because I really don't. I don't say things. I just kind of move in silence like lasagna. Lil Wayne said that, right? But like, but overall aspect is like, you know, really just continue to be yourself, man. And like, and whatever it is you do, especially as a doctor's student, like don't drink the academic Kool-Aid. Like literally just be yourself, because what will happen is you come in, you start to get opportunities, or you start to feel yourself, and then you fall right victim to the people that you will be doing. Don't be your advisor unless you have a good one.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir. And so I want to first I want to say this before I close, Sean. Do you have a few minutes after the show?
Sure, I have a couple minutes.
Okay. Let me say this first and foremost. I've made this loud and clear before. Apparently, the positivity of this platform is causing some people to want to exude ignorance. I've said this to you before. Do not, and I repeat, do not bring that negativity to this platform. This is all about positivity. When you have your short sightings, stay on your side of town. I'm going to put it to you just like this. Stay on your side of town with that mess. Please do not come to this platform displaying that negative energy, because it is definitely not needed. It's not warranted. And I ask you to please stay away. Just stay away. For those of you that are watching that have been great and have watched throughout this show, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you for giving us your time, but I also appreciate you guys for actually listening and understanding what it is to be a Black man in America and what the Black plight is like. This may not be happening to some, and if it is happening to most, talking about it is something that's most difficult, but when you talk about it, you learn more, you be better. I want to thank Sean for being here. I want to thank each of you for on all the platforms in which you're watching. If you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel and enabled all your the notifications, I ask if you would please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications, where every time we have a show, you will get the show live, as well as you go back to watch all of the great messages of all of the great people that have been here, that's had the positive message to help to grow community and make the community that much better. So in closing, Sean Hembrick reminds us that scholarship is not just about discovery, it's about dignity. His journey from East Harlem to Penn State is a testament to what happens when intellect meets intention. When purpose meets perseverance, he stands as proof that education can be both a mirror and a megaphone, reflecting who we are and amplifying who we can become. Tonight, we celebrate not only his achievements, but his advocacy, his artistry, and his authenticity. Because in the story of America in Black and White, voices like Sean's remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is, at its core, the pursuit of justice. You guys have a great evening. Join us again tomorrow evening for another great